Hello, Year 4. So today's the day we're going to finish The Butterfly Lion. There's actually 3 chapters left, but they're only short. Next chapter is called The Butterfly Lion. We never had children of our own, just the White Prince, and I can tell you he was enough of a family for anyone. He roamed free in the park just as we had planned he would, and chased the deer and rabbits wherever he felt like it. But he never did learn how to kill for himself. You can't teach old lions new tricks. He lived well, on venison mostly, and slept on a sofa on the landing. I wouldn't have him inside our bedroom, no matter how often Bertie asked. You have to draw the line somewhere. Bertie's leg never recovered completely. When it was bad, he often needed a stick, or me, or the lion to lean on. It pained him a lot, particularly when the weather was cold and damp, and he never slept well. On Sundays, the 3 of us would wander the park together, and he would sit on the top of Wood Hill with his arm around his old friend's neck, and I would fly kites. As you know, I've always loved kites, and so it turned out did the lion, who pounced on several of them as they landed, savaged them and ripped them to pieces. The lion never showed any interest in escaping, and even if he'd wanted to, the park wall was too high for an old lion to jump. Wherever Bertie went, he wanted to go too, and if ever Bertie went out in the car, then he'd sit by me near the stove in the kitchen and watch me with those great amber eyes, listening all the while for the sound of Bertie's car coming up the gravel to the front of the house. The old lion lived on into a ripe old age, but he became stiff in his legs and could see very little towards the end. He spent his last days stretched out asleep at Bertie's feet, right where you're sitting now. When he died, we buried him at the bottom of the hill out there. Bertie wanted it that way, so he could always see the spot from the kitchen window. I suggested we plant a tree in case we forgot where he was. I'll never forget, he said fiercely. Never, and besides, he deserves a lot more than a tree. Bertie grieved on for weeks, months after the lion died. There was nothing I could do to cheer him or even console him. He would sit for hours in his room or go off on long walks on his own. He seemed to shut away inside himself, so distant. Try as I did, I could not reach him. Then one day I was in the kitchen here when I saw him hurrying down the hill, waving his stick and shouting for me. "I've got it," he cried as he came in. "I've got it at last." He showed me the end of his stick. It was white. "See that, Milly? Chalk. It's chalk underneath, isn't it?" "So?" I said. "You know the famous white horse on the hillside at Uffington, the one they carved out of chalk 1,000 years ago? That horse never died, did it? It's still alive, isn't it? Well, that's what we're going to do, so he'll never be forgotten. We'll carve the White Prince out on the hillside, and he'll be there forever. He'll be white forever too." "It'll take a bit of time, won't it?" I said. "We've got plenty, haven't we?" He replied with the same smile he had smiled at me when he was a 10-year-old boy, asking me if he could come back and mend the kite with me. It took the next 20 years to do it. Every spare hour we had, we were up there, scraping away with spades and trowels. We had buckets and wheelbarrows to carry away the turf and the earth. It was hard, back-breaking work, but it was a labour of love. We did it, Bertie and I, we did it together, paws, claws, tail, mane, until he was whole and perfect in every detail. Just after we'd finished that the butterflies first came. We noticed that when the sun comes out after the rain in the summer, the butterflies, Adonis blues they are, I looked them up, come out to drink on the chalk face. Then the White Prince becomes a butterfly lion and breathes again like a living creature. So now you know how Bertie's white lion became the White Prince and how the White Prince became the butterfly lion. Next chapter's called "And the Lion Shall Lie Down with the Lamb." The old lady turned to me and smiled. "There," she said, "that's my story." "And what about Bertie?" I knew as I asked I shouldn't have, but I had to know. "He's dead, dear," the old lady replied. "It's what happens when you get old. It's nothing to worry about. It's lonely, though. That's why I've got Jack. And Bertie, like his lion, lived on to a good old age. He's buried out there on the hill beside the White Prince." She looked back at the hill for a moment. "That's where I belong too," she said. She tapped the table with her fingers. "Come on, time to go. Back to school with you before they miss you, and then you don't get yourself into trouble." "We wouldn't want that, would we?" she laughed. "Do you know, that's just what I told Bertie all those years ago when he ran away from school. You remember?" She was on her feet now. "Come on, I'll drive you. And don't look so worried. I'll make sure no one sees you. It'll be like you've never been gone." "Can I come again?" I asked. "Of course you can," she said. "It may not always be easy to find, but I'll be here. I'll just tidy away the tea things, and then we'll go, shall we?" It was a very old-fashioned car, black and upright and dignified, with a leathery smell and a whiny engine. She dropped me at the bottom of the school park by the fence. "Take care, dear," she said, "and be sure to come again soon, won't you? I'll be expecting you." "I will," I replied. I climbed the fence, and before I turned to wave, But by the time that I'd done that, the car had gone. To my huge relief, no one had missed me. And best of all, Basher Beaumont was in the sick room. He'd gone down with measles. I just hoped his measles would last a long time, a very long time. All through supper, I could think of nothing but Bertie Andrews and his white lion. Stew and dumplings, and then semolina pudding with raspberry jam. Again. It was as if I was picking my way through my slimy semolina. I remembered Bertie Andrews had been to this school. Maybe, I thought, maybe he'd had to sit here and eat slimy semolina just as we did now. I looked up at the honours boards around the dining room, the names of all the boys who'd won scholarships over the years. I looked for Bertie Andrews, but he wasn't there. But then, I thought, why should he be? Maybe, like me, he wasn't brilliant at schoolwork. Not everyone wins scholarships. Cookie, Mr. Cook, my history teacher, was sitting beside me at the end of my table. Who are you looking for, Mapergo? He asked suddenly. Andrews, sir, I said. Bertie Andrews. Andrews. There's an Albert Andrews who won the Victoria Cross in the First World War. You mean him? Cookie scraped his bowl clean and licked the back of his spoon. I love raspberry jam. You'll find his name in the chapel under the east window, under the war memorial. He wasn't killed in the war, you know. He lived down at Strawbridge, that place with the lion on the gateway just across the main road. He died maybe 10, 12 years ago. Soon after I came to teach here. The only old boy ever to win the VC. That's why they put up a memorial plaque for him in the chapel after he died. I remember the day his wife came to unveil it, his widow, I should say. Poor dear, just herself and her dog in that great big place. She died only a few months later. Broken-hearted, they say. You can, you know, you can die of a broken heart. That house has been empty ever since. No family to take it on. No one wants it. Too big, you see. Shame. I said I wanted to be excused to go to the toilet. I hurtled down the passage, out across the courtyard and into the chapel. The small brass plaque was exactly where Cookie had said it was, but hidden by a vase of flowers. I moved the vase to one side. The plaque read, Albert Andrews, VC, born 1897, died 1968, an old boy of this school, and the lion shall lie down with the lamb. All night long I tried to puzzle it out. Cookie was wrong, he just had to be. I never slept a wink. We're to the last chapter, Adonis Blues. The next afternoon, after games were over, I went over the fence at the bottom of the park, hared up through the Innocents' Breach, across the road along the wall, and slipped through the iron gateway with the stone lion roaring above me. It was raining, a light summer rain. I tried knocking at the front door. No one came. No dog barked. I went round to the back and peered in through the kitchen window. The box kite was still there on the kitchen table, but there was no sign of the old lady anywhere. I rattled the kitchen door and knocked louder, again and again. I called out, hello, hello. There was no reply. I banged on the window. Are you there? Are you there? We all are, came a voice from behind me. I turned. There was no one there. I was alone with the white lion on the hillside. I'd imagined it. I climbed the hill and went to sit on the grass above the white of the lion's mane. I looked down at the great house beneath me. Jackdaws cawed overhead. There was bracken and grass growing out of the gutters and around the chimney pots. Some of the windows were boarded up. Drain pipes hung loose and rusting. The place was quite empty. Oh, goodness. The rain suddenly stopped, and the sun warmed on the back of my neck. The first butterfly landed on my arm. It was blue. Adonis Blues, Adonis Blues, came the voice again, like an echo in my head. Then the sky around me was filled with butterflies, and they were settling to drink on the chalk. Adonis Blues, remember? The same voice, a real voice, her voice. And this time I knew it was not in my head. Keep him white for us, there's a dear. We don't want him forgotten, you see. Think of us sometimes, won't you? I will, I cried, I will. And I swear I felt the earth tremble beneath me with the roar of a distant lion. That's the end of the book. A bit of a mysterious ending, I think you'll agree. Have a chat with your family, see what you think the ending was all about. See you soon.